Alright guys, welcome to our first ever homework video session. We'll see how this goes and then we'll talk about it tomorrow. So we are looking at solving a system of equations by substitution. Hopefully you have your packet from class. The first page we're just going to walk through it together and then we're going to do a couple other problems together and then you can hopefully do some by yourself. So when we start out with the first page, we've got that system of equations, 3x plus 2y equals 10 and 2x minus y equals 9. Go ahead and number the top one number 1, number the second one number 2, so we know that they're which one I talk about when I talk about the first equation, which one for the second. So your first step is you're going to choose one equation and solve it for x or y. In this case, I'm going to choose the second equation because y is already sorted by itself. So if I take that second equation, 2x minus y equals 9, and I subtract 2x from both sides, then what I get is minus y equals minus 2x plus 9. And then I just have to multiply everything through by a negative 1, so that, because I don't want to know what negative y is, I want to know what y equals. And I get y equals 2x minus 9. That's the first thing that I'm going to do, is just to choose one equation and get either y equals and everything on the other side or x equals and everything on the other side. Once I do that, I'm going to substitute the expression from that equation into the other equation and solve. So I had taken equation 2, now I'm going to use that in equation 1. So I'm going to take that 2x minus 9, and in equation 1 where I have y, I'm going to plug in 2x minus y minus 9 because I know that's what y equals. So I take that first equation and substitute in. I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to distribute and get 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times minus 9 is minus 18. And then I'm going to combine like terms, and that 3x plus 4x gives me 7x. And then I'm going to solve for x by adding 18 to both sides and dividing both sides by 7, so I find out that x equals 4. So I've actually solved about half of my problem now. Once I find out that x equals 4, I'm going to substitute again, because I'm going to go back to that equation, y equals 2x minus 9, and I'm going to substitute 4 in for x. So I just take y equals 2 times 4 instead of x minus 9, and again I just simplify that down. I get 8 minus 9, and that's going to give me y equals negative 1. So what I find out is that the solution to my problem, x is 4, y is negative 1. Remember we talked about how our solution will usually be 1 point, so that is my point for negative 1. And remember we can check it. I can plug 4 in for x and negative 1 in for y into both of those, and I should get true or real equations that work out. Okay, so let's move on to the second problem on the back of your sheet. We're going to go to 3x minus 2y equals 11. Go ahead and make that equation 1. And x equals 9 minus 2y, we'll make that equation 2. And our first step said to choose one equation and solve for x or y. Now, equation 2 already is solved for x. I have x on one side, everything else on the other. So I almost don't have a first step because I've already got one equation solved for x or y. So I'm going to move on to the second step, which is substitute that expression from that equation into the other equation. So I'm going to take equation 2 and use that value for x in equation 1. So we're going to actually get 3 times 9 minus 2y, because 9 minus 2y is what x equals, minus 2y equals 11. And when I solve that, I start to distribute 27 minus 6y. I combine my like terms. I get 27 minus 8y. I subtract 27 from both sides, and then I divide both sides by negative 8, and I find out that y equals 2. So now I've got half my problem done. I'm going to go back to the third step, which is that I take this value that I found, I'm going to plug it back into the earlier equation. So I go to equation 2, x equals 9 minus 2y. I know that y equals 2, so I plug that in, and I just simplify it down. I get 9 minus 4, so I find out x equals 5, and that leads me to my solution, that point. X is 5, y is 2. Finally, let's look at that last one. I have two equations. We're going to make that first equation 1, make the second equation 2. Choose which one you're going to solve for. In this case, I'm choosing equation 2 because y, again, doesn't have a value in front of it. So it's going to be an easy one for me to solve for. So I would just subtract 4x from both sides. And I get y equals negative 4x plus 24. So my second step says that I should substitute that expression into the other equation. So I'm going to take that, plug it into equation 1. So I get 2x minus 3, but instead of y, I'm going to get minus 4x plus 24 equals 2. Again, I distribute out. And when I do that, I find out that x equals 5. Now, I did not work this out on the video. I'm expecting you to work it out on your paper. And then what I want you to do is just pause this for a moment, plug in x equals 5, and solve it for y. Okay, hopefully you substituted in. When you substituted x in, that should be what you got. And when you solved for y, hopefully you got y equals 4. So your solution should have been 5, 4. Now what I would like for you to do is go to the next page, and remember you are going to try and solve number 1 and number 2 using substitution. They'll work out exactly like what we just did, walking through step by step. So you're going to remember to first get one of the equations to be x or y. Second, substitute that value into the other equation, solve that for the variable that's left, and then use that variable to substitute into your final equation, and that will give you your point, x or y. All right, good luck with this. Any questions, don't hesitate to email me. Have a good night.